I was flipping steaks on the grill. She was laughing next to the man who fathered my children. That night was supposed to be a celebration. My oldest son's high school graduation, full scholarship, honors, everything a father should be proud of. But something felt wrong. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just wrong, like a quiet draft sneaking under the door, cold and slow. My name is Mark Dalton. I'm 47. I live in Tampa, Florida. I've been married to Ashley for 21 years. I work as a claims analyst at a local insurance company. She's a corporate accountant. We have 3 kids, Liam, 19, Chloe, 16, and Josh, 14. I built a stable life. Paid the bills. Skipped vacations. Fixed the roof myself. Nights when Ashley was too tired, I cooked, helped with homework, walked the dog. I wasn't flashy. I wasn't loud. But I was there, always. The party started around 6 p.m. Friday, June 7th. Florida hot, 79 degrees, 68% humidity. We set up folding chairs, balloons, finger food, classic rock on Bluetooth. Mostly Ashley's coworkers and her side of the family. A few people I barely recognized. I stood by the grill, beer in one hand, my favorite lighter in the other, a battered Zippo I found years ago at a shop in St. Pete Beach. I don't smoke. Never did. I just collect old Zippos. That click, it calms me. Like punctuation in a life I tried to keep steady. And then Eric Lawson showed up. We've known each other for almost 2 decades. Met at a seminar in Tallahassee. He went into finance. I went into insurance. We stayed friends, barbecues, birthdays, even a family trip to Asheville once. He pulled into the driveway like he owned it. Stepped out in a crisp white shirt, holding a gift bag. Ashley walked up to him first. That hug, it lasted 1 second too long. And she whispered something in his ear that made him smirk. Then, without asking, he grabbed my Zippo. Let's fire up this night, huh? He always talked like that. Confident. Too smooth. I brushed it off. Beer and heat, I told myself. But things kept stacking. Liam, the guest of honor, avoided me all evening. Didn't make eye contact, barely mumbled a thanks when I handed him a soda. Chloe clung to Eric like he was her personal hero. She laughed at everything he said. Josh ran past me twice without saying a word. Third time, I called out his name, he didn't even turn around. Ashley walked over, eyes scanning the crowd. She said, "Have you seen Chloe?" I said, "By the pool. With Eric." She nodded, barely looking at me, and walked away like I was just the hired help. She wore a backless white dress I'd never seen before. Not something you wear to a backyard barbecue. And her heels, not for the lawn. Not for me. I glanced at the gift table. One of the envelopes said, "From Dad." But I didn't write it. That wasn't my handwriting. Not even close. A few minutes later, Eric was behind the grill. He said, "Take a break, Mark. You've earned it." Then he took over like this was his house. My grill. My backyard. Wearing a Rolex I'd never seen before, probably a gift from someone like her. He handed Liam a plate like they'd done it 100 times. Chloe leaned into his side when they took a photo. They looked familiar. Like this wasn't new. I stepped inside into the kitchen. Quiet. Dim. Just the hum of the fridge. On the counter, a wine glass with red lipstick on the rim. Ashley never drinks red. "Gives me migraines," she always said. I sniffed the glass. Cabernet. Expensive. We didn't buy it. Someone brought it from home. Someone who knew what she liked better than I did. I opened the bottom drawer and found our old photo album. Josh's 8th birthday. Me holding him, frosting on his face. Chloe laughing beside us. Liam in the background, arms crossed, watching. Even then, that look. Like I wasn't part of something. Josh walked in barefoot, eating a cupcake. He looked at the album, then at me. He said, "Why do you still keep that?" Eric says those memories don't matter if they're based on a lie. I asked. What lie? He didn't answer. Just walked out. I stepped back outside. Eric had the mic. He raised a glass and said, "Let's hear it for this amazing family, Ashley, Liam, Chloe, and Josh." No mention of me. No. Mark and Ashley. No. The Daltons. Just her. And the kids. And then he added, "We all know who really helped build their future." The crowd laughed. Ashley smiled. Chloe clapped. Even Liam gave a little nod. One of Ashley's coworkers leaned over to me and said, "You and Eric make a great team raising those kids." I didn't respond. Back at the grill, Josh ran past again. I overheard him say, "Eric brought the right flavor this time. Not like him." Him. That was me. Chloe replied. "Mom said just be nice to him, one more time." One more time? I stood at the edge of the yard, holding the Zippo. My knuckles white. I looked at them, Ashley, Eric, the kids. They laughed together. Touched casually. Shared private looks. I was the man who paid the mortgage. Who worked Saturdays while she took on more clients. Who drove the kids to school. Fixed the sink. Covered for her when she forgot teacher meetings. I did everything a man's supposed to do. And somehow, I was the outsider at my own son's graduation. I didn't explode. I didn't scream. I didn't throw a scene. But the second I closed that Zippo, I stopped being their husband, or their dad. That night, something else woke up in me. Not rage. Not revenge. Something colder. And it remembered everything. After that night, I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I let them laugh, toast, and hug while I stood behind the grill, flipping meat like nothing was wrong. But when I went back inside, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark, staring at the wine glass Ashley left on the counter. I kept replaying the words. Eric brought the right kind. Just be nice to him. One more time. You and Eric really make a great parenting team. If I had confronted her that night, it would have ended in chaos. She would have denied everything. The kids would have picked her side. Eric? He would have smiled and said I was drunk. So I did what quiet men do when they're betrayed. I started remembering. And then I started collecting. I woke up early the next morning, before sunrise. Ashley was still asleep, hair sprawled across her pillow like nothing had happened. I stared at her for a moment. This was the woman I built a life with. The woman I protected, fed, defended. And now, the woman who looked at another man the way she used to look at me. While she slept, I went to the garage. In a sealed bin under my workbench, I found an old laptop, not our home one, but the personal backup I hadn't touched in years. It still had the original passwords. No synced cloud accounts. No tracking. Perfect. I dusted it off, plugged it in, and got to work. First, I pulled up our joint bank accounts. Ashley handled most of the finances. She liked it that way. I trusted her. Big mistake. Two things jumped out immediately. A $12,800 transfer last fall to an account I didn't recognize. Labeled consulting. Multiple small withdrawals, always just under $500, spread over 2 years. I cross-checked it with our credit card records. Hotel stays under her name in Orlando, St. Augustine, even Jacksonville, always during weekends when I took the kids camping or visited my dad in Sarasota. She never mentioned work trips. And then I found it. A flight confirmation to Denver. Booked in her name. Paid with our joint Amex. Date? The same weekend I had my kidney stones surgery last year. She had told me she was at a conference. She wasn't even in the state. Next, I opened an old folder on my drive, full of scanned receipts from when we first bought the house. Back then, we tracked every cent. Now, the paper trail was chaotic, gaps everywhere. I found property tax bills going to a secondary address, a P.O. box in Hillsborough County I never knew about. That box wasn't mine. Wasn't ours. But the name on the rental agreement? Ashley L. Dalton. And Eric M. Lawson. Co-signers. For what? I made a list. Not a rant. Not a diary. A list. Clean. Numbered. What Ashley forgot I could still access. What they didn't delete. What they thought I wouldn't notice. The kids were asleep. The house was silent. And I sat there, building a digital graveyard. Phone records. Tax documents. Car rental logs. All under our shared email, our shared phone plan, our shared life. The betrayal wasn't just physical. It was bureaucratic. She used my money, my insurance, my signature, to fund the life she built behind my back. That's what hit hardest. Not the sex. Not the lies. But the paperwork. Around noon, Ashley came into the kitchen in her robe, hair tied back. She said, "You didn't sleep?" I said, "Just had a lot on my mind." She kissed my cheek. Habitual. Soulless. Then asked, "Can you pick up Chloe later? I've got reports due and might stay late at the office." The office. I nodded. She poured herself coffee. Sipped it. Scrolled her phone. I watched her from across the room. I tried to see if she looked different now. Less human. More dangerous. But she looked exactly the same. That's what's terrifying. Betrayal doesn't come with a new face. It wears the one you love. That afternoon, I drove to Eric's bank branch. I sat in the parking lot for over an hour, watching. He came out twice, once for lunch, once to chat with someone in a Lexus. I didn't confront him. I just watched how he walked, how he laughed, how comfortable he was. Like he hadn't stolen 21 years of my life. I opened a burner email account that night. Signed up for a genealogy DNA kit. It was a long shot. But I had a gnawing thought in my gut. What if this ran deeper? I ordered 3 kits. One for Liam. One for Chloe. One for Josh. I'd make them take the test. Somehow. But I had time. Because I wasn't rushing this. I called an old friend, Danny Holt, a retired forensic accountant. We used to fish together. He owed me a favor. I told him I suspected something shady in my wife's taxes. Didn't mention cheating. Just business irregularities. He said. Send everything. I'll go through it with clean hands. Then I called Tessa, a woman I knew from my job. She worked in background checks and compliance. I said, I need a legal address trace and travel logs. Quietly. She said, divorce stuff? I said, not yet. Just clarity. Every man I contacted? They didn't ask why. They knew the voice I was using. That quiet, controlled voice men use when they've been betrayed, but haven't broken yet. The voice that means, I'm not yelling. I'm building. They thought I wouldn't notice. That I'd fade into the background. That I'd accept it. But they forgot something about men like me. We don't scream. We document. And when we move like steel. The kits arrived exactly 11 days after I ordered them. Plain white boxes. Discreet packaging. No instructions on the outside. Just barcodes and silence. I hid them in the cabinet above the garage freezer, the one nobody touches unless we're out of ice cream. Then I waited for the right moment. That Saturday, Ashley took Chloe shopping for prom shoes. Josh was at a sleepover. Liam was in his room, headphones on, working on college applications. I knocked on his door. He said, Yeah? I stepped in. He didn't look up. I said, Quick question. Want to help me test this DNA ancestry thing I'm trying for fun? He paused his music. Turned. I kept my tone light. Suppose to match you with distant relatives or something. You just spit in the tube. He shrugged. Sure. Whatever. I handed him the kit. Watched him fill it. Labeled it. Logged it. No suspicion. No questions. The next week, I got Josh to do his without even realizing it. He was playing with a plastic volcano from a science kit. I said, "Want to try a grown-up version of that experiment?" He nodded. Kids trust what feels like play. Chloe was trickier. But she loved skincare samples. So I said, "This brand is testing how different people's skin reacts to natural enzymes. You just swab and seal. Could help with your breakouts." She rolled her eyes, but she did it. 3 kits. Logged. Sent. And I waited. 17 days later, I got the results. Not in the mail. On the burner email. Subject line: "Your DNA family report is ready." I clicked. Held my breath. First, Liam. Likelihood of biological relationship, 99. 98%. Confirmed. I exhaled. My chest loosened. He was mine. My firstborn. The one I taught to ride a bike. The one I sat with during math meltdowns. Still mine. Next, Josh. Likelihood, 99. 89%. Also mine. I smiled for the first time in weeks. I imagined him as a baby, the way he'd fall asleep on my chest, tiny hand gripping my shirt. Still mine. Then I opened Chloe's. Likelihood 0%. No match found. I reread it 5 times. Refreshed the page. Checked the barcode. No mistake. Chloe. My daughter. The one I held in the hospital while Ashley slept. The one I stayed up nights with when she had colic. The one I walked into her first day of school, holding her tiny hand. Not mine. I didn't cry. I stood up, walked outside, and sat on the front steps. It was 8:41 p.m. Warm. Breezy. The sky was purple, fading into black. A single plane blinked far above. She wasn't mine. And Ashley had never told me. She'd built a second life. In secret. With Eric. And she'd brought me into it, like a spare. Like a decoy. Chloe came home an hour later, shopping bags in hand, humming some pop song. She dropped her keys, laughed, picked them up. I looked at her. She looked just like Ashley's mother. Same cheekbones. Same tilt of the eyes. I had never noticed. She said, "You okay?" I said, "Tired." She walked past me like nothing was different. But everything was. That night, I watched old home videos. Birthdays. Christmas mornings. First bike rides. There was a moment, Chloe's 3rd birthday. Eric was there. Holding her while she blew out candles. Ashley was off to the side, smiling. Watching them like a family. I zoomed in. He kissed her forehead. And I had filmed it. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table again. Same chair. Same silence. Ashley walked in, tying her robe. She said, "You're up early again." I said nothing. She poured coffee. Sat across from me. I watched her sip, scroll her phone, text someone. Probably him. Josh came downstairs in his pajamas. He said, "Morning, Dad." I nodded. He poured cereal. Sat beside Ashley. Started talking about a science project. They were normal. Casual. But I wasn't. My silence had changed shape. It wasn't numbness anymore. It wasn't confusion. It was clarity. 3 children. 2 truths. 1 lie that lived in my house for 15 years. They thought I was still quiet. Still blind. Still harmless. But I wasn't asleep anymore. I was watching. Listening. Counting. And my silence, it was about to end. It was a Wednesday. July 10th, 95 degrees. Thick Florida air. The kind that clings to your skin and slows your steps. I knew Eric's schedule by then. Lunch at 12:30. Leaves the branch through the back lot. Grabs food from the same sandwich place across the plaza. Returns by 1:05. Like clockwork. I parked in the far end of the lot, under a sun-bleached oak tree. Windows down. Engine off. Watching. 12:32, he stepped out of the building. Dark blue shirt. Khakis. Phone to his ear. He laughed. That same smug laugh I heard at the graduation. That laugh that used to echo from my own backyard. I waited until he picked up his sandwich order, turkey, no tomato, iced tea, and turned to head back. I stepped out of my car. He saw me as he crossed the lot. Slight pause. Not fear. Just confusion. He said, "Mark?" I smiled. Walked toward him like an old friend. Not fast. Not slow. Just sure. He extended a hand. I didn't take it. I said, "We haven't talked. I figured we should." He looked around. No one near. He said, "About what?" I said, "About the things men don't say out loud." He shifted his bag to the other hand. I took a step closer. He smelled like department store cologne and cheap Victory. I said, "You remember the barbecue? Chloe's graduation?" He nodded. I said, "You toasted my daughter. Called me a hell of a father. While wearing my cologne and eating my food." He opened his mouth. I held up a finger. Not loud. Not fast. Just deliberate. I said, "I know where you've taken her. I know the account you helped her open. I know about Denver." His face tightened. I said, "I know Chloe isn't mine. I know when it started. I know how long it's been going." He said nothing. Just swallowed. I stepped even closer. No threats. Just presence. I said, "I'm not going to punch you in this parking lot." He exhaled. I added, "Because I don't want to bruise you. I want to bury you." That got him. He said, "What do you want?" I said, "Nothing right now. Just letting you know I'm awake." Then I walked away. Got in my car. Drove off. Didn't look back. That night, I couldn't sit at the dinner table. Ashley served grilled chicken and quinoa. Told Josh to chew slower. Told Chloe to stop texting. It all felt fake. A stage play. And I was the only one who saw the curtain shaking. Liam asked, "Dad, you good?" I nodded. But I wasn't. Every sound at that table was like nails on glass. The scrape of forks. The fake laughs. The lies between bites. Ashley smiled at me. That polished smile she used in public. I stared at her. She didn't flinch. Later, I took the Zippo from the garage drawer. The same one Eric had used. I flicked it open. Lit it once. Let it burn. Then closed it. Still warm. Like memory. Like betrayal. Over the next few days, I began small withdrawals. Cleared joint savings into a new private account. Legal. Clean. Filed quiet motions to access records of Chloe's school, medical bills, insurance files. All in my name. All filed through the firm I trusted. No one noticed. Not yet. Chloe came home late that Friday. I was on the porch, pretending to read. She said, "Eric gave me a ride. Mom's car had issues." I didn't reply. She said, "Everything okay?" I said, "Yeah. Just tired." She went inside. But she looked back once. Just once. And I saw it in her eyes. Doubt. A crack in the performance. The next morning, I watched Ashley leave for work. She didn't kiss me goodbye. She used to. Even when it meant nothing. Now? Not even the performance. That told me everything. He thought I'd yell. He thought I'd storm into the bank, cause a scene, lose my mind. But men like me, we don't need noise. We need leverage. And now I had it. I didn't want her to confess. I wanted her to lie. To stand there, in the same kitchen we built together, and look me in the eye, with the same face she used when she said, "I love you," and lie. Because lies are currency. And the more she spent, the poorer she'd become. It was Sunday morning. Mid-July. Heat pressing against the windows. Ceiling fans doing nothing. The kind of day made for rest. For honesty. She was slicing cantaloupe. I was making coffee. I said casually. So, how's the project going? The Carter audit you mentioned? She blinked once. Then smiled. Good. Long hours, but it's getting there. I stirred my coffee. No reaction. I said. I thought you said you wrapped that one up last week. She paused. Just a second. Then. No, that was a different file. The Carter one's ongoing. She didn't stutter. Didn't flinch. Professional liar. Seasoned. Practiced. And still, I knew. She hadn't touched the Carter file in 6 months. I had her firm's client list. I had the project log. I had everything. But I let her talk. Later that afternoon, I asked if she wanted to go with me to Home Depot. She declined. Said she had laundry. And calls. Then she said, Maybe you can grab mulch? For the front bed. I nodded. She kissed my cheek. Like it meant something. I left. Drove 3 blocks. Parked. Waited. 10 minutes later, a black Mazda pulled into the driveway. Eric. They didn't leave the house. I didn't need them to. It was never about catching them in the act. It was about watching the architecture of her deception. Where she put her hands. How long she hesitated before answering the door. How often she checked the blinds. I filmed none of it. Didn't need to. I remembered everything. That week, I met with a lawyer. Not the one we used for our will. Someone new. Quiet office. No receptionist. Just an email referral from Danny. I brought documents. Dates. Bank statements. Birth certificates. The DNA reports. She read everything. Didn't blink. She said, Do you want to destroy her or just leave clean? I said, Both. She nodded. And the plan began. I set up a private mailbox in a different zip code. Transferred car titles. Rewrote the utilities into a trust. Moved my retirement account to a solo beneficiary account with restricted access. Every step, legal. Invisible. Precise. Ashley never noticed. She thought I was distant because of work. Because of the heat. Because I was getting older. She even joked once. You've been so quiet lately. Almost like you're disappearing. I smiled. Inside, I was vanishing from her world, asset by asset, thread by thread. One night, around midnight, I walked into our closet. She was asleep. Deep breathing. Face turned away. I opened the drawer where she kept her keepsakes. Found the box with our wedding photos. The printed vows. The old plane tickets to Maui. Underneath, tucked away, was a necklace. Gold. Simple. Not from me. I opened her email, the one she used for promotions and old accounts. Searched. Eric. Over 600 emails. Some old. Some recent. Some chilling. He had sent her the necklace. 3 years ago. With a note. For all the birthdays I missed. And all the ones I'll get to spend with you soon. That was the same year Chloe asked why Mom kept calling Mr. Eric Mike when she was on the phone. At the time, Ashley laughed it off. I remember that laugh now. It sounds like acid. I printed out 5 key emails. Stapled them. Sealed them in a folder. Wrote on the front, Use only if I'm gone. Then I put them in the safe behind the basement panel, where I keep my father's watch. That weekend, we had dinner with Liam and his girlfriend. Ashley was perfect. Smiled. Asked questions. Laughed at jokes that weren't funny. Liam looked uncomfortable. Later, when we were alone, he asked, Are you two okay? I said, Why do you ask? He said, You don't look at her anymore. He was right. Because looking at her felt like staring into a mask, one I couldn't unsee. She thinks I'm still asleep. That my silence means surrender. But every word she says digs her deeper. And I'm the one writing the record. Soon, I won't need to confront her. She'll walk into the verdict herself. The shift began with silence. Not mine, theirs. Josh stopped asking Ashley to check his homework. Chloe started spending more time in her room, earbuds in, doors shut. Even Liam, home from college for a few weeks, lingered longer in the garage than in the kitchen. It wasn't anything obvious. But cracks don't always roar. Sometimes they whisper. One night, Liam asked to grab dinner, just the two of us. We went to a small place off Route 60. Nothing fancy. Booths with torn vinyl. Waitress who remembered my order. Over meatloaf and iced tea, he finally said. I feel like something's wrong. I didn't blink. He said. You're different. Quieter. But not in a peaceful way. I said. Things change. He pushed his plate away. Does it have to do with Mom? I didn't answer. Just looked at him. He said. She says everything's fine. But she's always somewhere else. Always on her phone. Always tense. I nodded. He said. Are you guys getting divorced? I said. Not yet. He stared at me. Then said. Is she cheating? The words sat there. Between salt and pepper shakers. I didn't confirm. Didn't deny. I just said. There are things you don't know yet. But you're starting to see them. He swallowed hard. Do the others know? I said. Not yet. He didn't eat the rest of his dinner. Back home, Ashley was on the phone in the backyard. Liam walked past her. Didn't say a word. Josh was in the living room, building something out of Legos. Chloe was upstairs. Door open. Light off. Staring at the ceiling. I paused. Said. You okay? She said. Fine. Then added without looking. You ever feel like everything you believe might not be true? I said. Every day lately. She turned toward me. Eyes searching. But I didn't give her answers. Just presence. That week Chloe found the folder. I'd hidden it well. But kids know how to look. Especially the smart ones. I came home early. Her car was in the driveway, though she was supposed to be at a friend's. Inside, silence. I walked upstairs. Her door was cracked. She sat on the floor, folder open. Pages fanned out like cards. DNA results. Photos. Printed emails. Everything. She looked up. Eyes wide. Tears not yet fallen. She said, What is this? I sat on the floor with her. Said nothing. Just waited. She whispered, Is this why you don't talk to her anymore? I nodded. She said, Is this why you barely look at me? That cut. But I didn't flinch. I said, No. I look at you. Every day. I just don't know who I'm looking at anymore. She cried then. Softly. Like a window letting in rain. That night, she didn't come to dinner. Ashley asked. Where's Chloe? I said. Upstairs. She said. Everything okay? I looked at her. She's starting to ask good questions. Ashley paused. Fork in midair. Said nothing. And that silence said everything. Over the next few days, Chloe barely spoke to her mother. Josh followed her lead. Kids can sense tension faster than adults can explain it. Liam stayed longer in the garage. Then left early to see friends, though I knew he just wanted space. Ashley tried to patch it all. She made pancakes. Cleaned closets. Told old jokes. No one laughed. Friday evening, she came into the study. Stood there with a wine glass in hand. Eyes glossy. She said, Something's wrong with them. I didn't look up. She said, They're distant. Cold. It's like they're turning against me. I said, Maybe they're just growing up. She stepped closer. You think I did something to deserve this? I closed my notebook. Stood up. Said, I think you made your choices. And now, they're learning how to live with them. Then I left the room. She thought the storm would come from me. That I'd rage, accuse, explode. But the storm came from those she thought she owned, the kids. And nothing hits harder than truth whispered by someone you raised. She hadn't just lost me. She was starting to lose them. Saturday, June 1st. The stadium was packed. Chloe's high school graduation. Heat shimmering off the metal bleachers. Programs flapping like weak fans. Everyone in their Sunday best, proud, smiling, sweating. Ashley sat next to me in a pale blue dress. The same color she wore the night she said, "I do." Except now, the fabric looked heavy. And so did her smile. Josh sat on the other side, fidgeting with his tassel pin. Liam stood in the aisle, trying to fix the lens on my old Nikon. He looked tired. Not from the heat, from everything. I watched Chloe walk across the stage. Her name echoed through the speakers. Applause rose. Ashley clapped the loudest. I didn't move. Afterward, there were photos. Families posing. Mothers crying. Fathers smiling. Balloons floating. Eric was there. Not close. But close enough. Standing near the parking lot, pretending to look for someone. He hadn't been invited. But he came anyway. Cowards don't need permission, just opportunity. Ashley approached me near the snack table. Plastic cup in hand. Smile too wide. She said, "We did it." I said, "She did it." She said, "We should celebrate. Just us." I looked at her. Then at Chloe. Then at Eric. Then back. I said, "Actually, I think she deserves a real gift." She blinked. I reached into my pocket. Pulled out an envelope. Handed it to Chloe. She opened it. Read silently. Then slower. Then again. She said, "This is," I said, "truth. In your name. In case anyone tries to twist it later." Inside was a notarized statement. The full story. My signature. Copies of the emails. DNA results. Bank transfers. A sealed folder addressed to a family law attorney. All hers now. Ashley's face drained. She said, "What are you doing?" I said, "Finishing something." Then turned to the boys. Handed each of them a letter. Private. No yelling. No accusations. Just clarity. I looked at Eric. He started to back away. I said loud enough for only him, "You built something with someone who destroys things. Good luck." He didn't reply. Just kept walking. People began to notice. Tension hangs differently in the air than joy. It smells metallic. Liam pulled Chloe aside. She showed him the envelope. He looked at me. Then nodded. Not angry. Just aware. I walked to my car alone. Keys in hand. Engine waiting. Ashley followed. Stood behind the driver's side door. She said, "You planned this." I said, "No. You did. I just delivered it." She said, "What about us? After everything?" I said, "There is no us. Just what's left." She stepped back. No more words. I drove off. Not fast. Not triumphant. Just free. The sun was still high. But for the first time in months, it felt warm again. I never screamed. Never begged. Never raised my voice. I waited. I watched. I prepared. And when the time came, I didn't break her world, I handed her the pieces. Now she can try to rebuild it. But I won't be there to watch it fall again. Subscribe if you want more stories about real men who don't scream. They act. Coldly? To the end?